If I were to write a book on this topic, or at least an article, I would call it The Mystery of the Budapest Memorandum. I would take two epigraphs to it. The first epigraph is the words of Leonid Kuchma. I'm quoting, "Young men, they will deceive you." It would be the first quote. If I may, those were the words of the French president addressed to Leonid Kuchma. Oh, yes, yes. And the second quote is from a book by the American author Warren Cohen called A Nation Like All Others. It was recently published. I'll just quote. It describes 1973, the war in the Middle East. I'll just quote. "The United States did not help the Israelis until Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir threatened to use nuclear weapons to defend her country. Then an American airlift appeared and the Israelis immediately launched a counteroffensive." It's just a quote. What different situations and what different conclusions can be drawn from it? Regarding our statement, it's just important to emphasize there are just a few such points. We are addressing, first of all, the states that possess nuclear weapons. That is not only the signatories of the Budapest Memorandum, and today, as we know, there are 9 states. What are we calling for? First, to recognize the Russian Federation's responsibility for violating security guarantees under the Budapest Memorandum. That is the issue of responsibility. It's a matter of principle. The question is about what? Different types of responsibility. There is international, legal, political, moral responsibility. Secondly, to intensify efforts to stop Russia's nuclear blackmail of the world and withdraw the Russian occupiers from the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It is also an important issue, an important call to stop the nuclear blackmail, because here Russia acts as a nuclear terrorist. We constantly talk about it at bilateral meetings. We also talked about this with the Chinese. That is unacceptable, to use nuclear blackmail. Thirdly, we call for the creation of an international mechanism for monitoring and accountability for compliance with security guarantees provided to states that have voluntarily renounced nuclear weapons. By the way, I think it contains one of the main lessons to be learned from the violation of the Budapest Memorandum. I mean, it is a lesson about the behavior of non-nuclear weapon states, the states that joined the NPT, the 1968 Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. What should they do when they see that the guarantees do not always work, unfortunately? And 2 more points. Consider the possibility of providing Ukraine with special security guarantees, along with the possibility of defense cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. There was a small discussion here when this text was being drafted, because I thought it would be better to say nuclear guarantees. Well, we decided on a softer, politically veiled form, special guarantees. And finally, the last appeal is to the parliaments of the EU and NATO member states to appeal to national governments to adopt a decision on inviting Ukraine to NATO and supporting its accession to the EU. We proceed from the fact that today the main security guarantee for us is NATO membership.